Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this traffic and transportation meeting on November 3rd, 2022. We are here in quorum. My name is Anthony Marino, the chair. We have a presentation tonight from the MTA having to do with a pilot program and ADA improvements on 95th Street. And with that, I welcome everyone to the meeting. And Nick Rolison, I throw it to you from the MTA. I welcome you and have at it. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having us this evening. So just quick introductions. My name is Nick Rolison. I am the Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations at the MTA. I cover South Brooklyn. So any issues relating to the MTA in South Brooklyn, you can make me your first point of contact, and I'm happy to help out. We are here today to talk about a very exciting and important issue, which is all of our accessibility updates that we've been instituting system-wide. We have a lot of exciting new programs, and we're very eager to talk about it with members of the community. So before we even begin, let me just say that we would love to, if you have a community group, if you have a group that's dedicated to accessibility issues or transit or anything relating to getting around the city, we would love to come talk to your group as well. To talk about these exciting updates that we have in our capital plan. So I'm joined by my colleague Yuvraj, who is sharing his screen, and he's going to go through the presentation. And then, of course, if there are any questions or comments or concerns after the presentation, we'll be around to answer any of those concerns. So without further ado, Yuvraj, if you want to take it over.
Yep. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Yuvraj Ramsiak, and I work on the MTA accessibility team. I'm just going to make this a little bigger to make it easier for people to see. Do you have any issues looking at this?
We can see it.
Cool. Okay, so I'll start off by giving a brief update on our capital plan progress and then move into some of our other general accessibility initiatives. So the first slide here is on our general is about the capital plan, which our 2020 to 2024 capital plan commits to making 70 stations accessible throughout the city. And this is one of the largest investments in accessibility that the agency has ever made. And as you can see on the right here, this is a map of stations that were recently completed, which are denoted by these blue check marks. In Bay Ridge, you can see just north of Bay Ridge, 59th Street on the 4th Avenue line, and then 86th Street were recently completed, and then the red wrench symbols you can see here are stations that are actively under construction right now or about to be awarded, or stations that are in progress, basically. And as you can see, again, they're all throughout the city. And in Bay Ridge here, we have 95th Street, which was mentioned earlier in the presentation, and then the southbound direction of 8th Avenue, just outside of Bay Ridge, on the N line. So even with COVID-related delays, so we still have a lot of projects, 23 projects to be exact, under construction, and 13 additional projects are expected to start by the end of this year. So we are accelerating the progress in which these projects are being constructed. But in addition to actually making stations fully accessible, the capital plan also includes critical investments in buses, in specifically 2,000 new buses, and many of these buses have improved seating design to allow more flexibility for various users, and also digital signage and audio announcement systems to improve the clarity in which announcements are made and also provide real-time route information for people who are on the bus. They also might feature wider doors to make it easier for people to board and leave the buses, and just create a more pleasant and safer experience for everyone using the bus. And while ADA remains a top priority for us, we are seeking all possible funding sources. Future projects might be at risk due to budget concerns, and we are actively searching for solutions to remedy this and continue to advance our priorities. So moving on to the next slide. So this is an actual list of, so this corresponds roughly to the map that I shared in the previous slide. So all those checkmark stations are listed here, recently completed. As I mentioned, 86th Street on the R line, is one of the more local ones, and then stations that are in progress nearby, as you can see, Bay Ridge, 95th Street, and then also the southbound direction of 8th Avenue on the N, or in the area. But other stations listed that are in the plan but we're not showing on this map. We have 15 other stations that are in the works that are also in Brooklyn alone, actually 15 alone here. So when I say accessibility and making a station accessible, what does that actually mean? So we have 140 stations throughout the system right now that are accessible, and they're in all 5 boroughs. And most people would think elevators and ramps and ways to make it easier for people to use wheelchairs or anything like that to access the system and get onto trains and leave trains to get onto the street. But it's more than that. And when we make accessibility upgrades, we also add accessible boarding areas. So this bullet here, ADA boarding areas. You might have noticed this, like a signage like it's pictured on the top right, where there's the ISA, which many people refer to as the wheelchair symbol, and boarding area. So this is the safest place for people using wheelchairs to board trains. This is the area where platform gaps are minimized to make it where basically the gap between trains and the platforms are the smallest that it can be in anywhere on the platform. In addition to people using wheelchairs, this is also a safer and more ideal place for people who might be pushing strollers or carrying luggage or anything like that to board trains. So that's another component when we make stations accessible. We also add tactile warning strips, which are these. This is the lower right corner of this image here, which is also a critical accessibility feature, which helps people who are blind or low vision to make sure that they're not stepping off the platform. We also add braille signage and also make the station booths accessible, basically allowing for people who are using wheelchairs to be able to access the booth and to be able to interact with the station agent at the same time. So we're very proud of all the work that we've been doing, and especially with making stations accessible. And this is a historic capital plan, but it's just the beginning of it. We're actually going to be accelerating the pace at which we're doing work, and in June of this year, we actually reached an agreement with some advocates, many advocates, to settle some of our ongoing lawsuits on accessibility. And in this process, we committed to making more than 95% of stations accessible by the year 2055. So the 70 stations that were listed in this plan, that's a major step forward. But in order to meet this goal, we need to increase the number of stations in future plans for this as well. So this investment is just the beginning, and there's more to come. Moving on to some of our general day-to-day, just other accessibility programs that we're working on. Sorry, there's a siren in the background. I hope it's not too distracting. So the first program here, the program you might be familiar with just from providing the system, would be the auto gate. So this is, some people might consider it, call it the service gate. Generally, this is close to the booth near elevators, and it's designed to create an alternative form of entry for people who are using wheelchairs or in this case with the picture here on the right, parents using strollers, people using luggage. Opening access to those gates for all types of people. All you need to do is dip your MetroCard or use Omni, which I'll explain more about Omni in a few moments. To which you can see the little reader on the picture as well, which is denoted by this white boundary. Just tap on that, and that activates the gate and allows for seamless entry and exit into the system. If you are leaving the system, by the way, with this, it does not charge a fare. But it does need you to dip your MetroCard or tap on the Omni screen here in order to leave, but it's not going to charge you a fare to leave because you've already paid a fare to enter. Moving on to Omni, which as I alluded to earlier, so Omni, for those unfamiliar, Omni is our new fare payment system. It allows for contactless payments. So basically, if you have an Apple Watch or any kind of smartwatch or a smartphone or any kind of contactless bank card, which are cards that feature this little Wi-Fi looking symbol, you can use those those devices to pay for your bus or train or railroad or anything like that throughout the MTA network. And for months after months of testing and piloting, we've actually we're very happy and proud to announce that reduced fare customers can now use Omni. So they too can actually use, so if you're a senior or a person with a disability and you have a reduced fare Metro card, you too can actually make the switch to Omni and use your smart device. And there are many benefits to using Omni. All of our buses now have Omni, all subway stations have Omni. There's convenience in the accessibility of just having contactless payment, not having to reach through your wallet or reach through your pockets or purse or anything like that to look for a Metro card. It just provides an easier experience for people. One less card, you don't need to go to a fare machine to top up, to add value or anything like that, or remember to reload your card for a pass or things like that. It removes a lot of the guesswork, and it allows, it actually has fare capping. So just a quick explanation on fare capping. So essentially, if you take more than 12 trips in a 7-day period from a Sunday, like starting on Sunday, all subsequent rides in that 7-day period will be free. And this is used in other systems, some systems throughout the world, notably in London, just in lieu of having monthly passes or time-based passes, and it just provides a little more convenience for our customers. And also having an Omni account and being able to go online and track your trips and figure out what you've paid and where you've tapped and things like that. And for those who are interested in making the switch, we are encouraging people to visit omni.info, one, to learn more, but also to work with our digital assistant, which we call our chatbot, which is this, when you go to the website on the lower right side of the screen, there is a prompt to talk to type and chat with the digital assistant. And this is one of the prompts that it'll start with. And you basically just tell it that you're looking to switch from a reduced fare Metro card to Omni, and it guides you through the process. And then we're also, our government and community relations team, so Nick and his team will be going out over the next few months to speak to communities, kind of brief people on this new tool and also just help them make this transition as well. And also the first event for that is actually here, right in Bay Ridge at the Bay Ridge Center on November 15th. And at the end of this presentation, we're happy to also answer more questions about that, and Nick can definitely chime in later on that. Moving on to our last item here, and one of the items that was raised earlier, the bus open stroller pilot. So today, the MTA policy on buses is for caregivers to fold strollers before boarding buses, which creates barriers for people who are caretakers and who are trying to travel with strollers, and it discourages many of them from using the bus, and this process of folding strollers can slow buses down for everyone else as well. So this spring we wanted to find a solution. So this spring we formed a working group with disability advocates, parent advocates, and bus operators to just figure out an alternative and figure out how we can accommodate all users and create a more inclusive experience for everyone. And we're pleased to announce that we are now running a pilot on one to two routes in each borough, where all buses will have one designated parking spot for strollers. So it's just a place for people to park their strollers and to lock strollers and store them while on the bus in an open in the open setting, which would be separate from the priority seating area. And Bay Ridge is actually one of the lucky areas, and I'll get into that in a second. But when you're on a pilot bus, so our general goal is to keep as many seats open as possible while also creating a space to park the stroller. So really trying to avoid reducing the number of seats and reducing bus capacity at the same time. So, and as I mentioned, there's no overlap between the wheelchair and priority seating area and this designated stroller space. And as when you're riding the buses and in the pilot routes in these pilot areas, you'll notice two different types of stroller parking areas. So one would be on this bullet here, the first bullet, a sub bullet, and this third one here, just the area in front of the rear door that where there's a seat missing that was removed, which allows provides for a little slot for people to slide the strollers in. Don't have an image here, but I can pull one up if anyone is interested. And then the second type would be the one that's pictured here on the right, which are also towards the rear door of the bus and is created in the flip up seat areas. And these seats are defaulted to be flipped up, but they can be flipped down if needed. And also just to point out, in this on the top right here is an example of the decal that you'll see on these pilot buses. So if you want to be sure that the bus has this parking feature on it, it will be denoted by this decal here, the stroller icon, and then the prompt here just describing the designated area and that basically telling people that the strollers need to be locked and secured, and just provide some guidance on that. Many of these buses also have they should have pamphlets and brochures on them. So we've gone out on a couple of the routes already, and when we're not seeing them, we're making sure that they're being replenished as well. So as I mentioned, the pilot route. So in Bay Ridge, there is the B1 route, and then there are a couple Staten Island buses that go to Bay Ridge, so the S53 and the S93. So these routes, in addition to the ones that were picked in other parts of the city, were picked largely due to ridership, and also the fact that we were able to secure the bus fleets, essentially since our bus fleets tend to change route to route, we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide a consistent experience, and these bus routes all use the same fleet of buses generally from the day to day, and also trying to have geographic equity in mind, so covering the entire city and because we wanted to have a meaningful pilot and a meaningful study and an analysis here to get a sense of how things are working. So we wanted to make sure that it was as representative of the city as possible. And so, which is how we came up with a lot of these routes here. And then, as I mentioned, these routes should all feature the decal in the previous slide. So this one here on the exterior that will remind people that those buses are equipped with the parking area. And for more information, you can visit mta.info/stroller, which also includes a video as well, like for more background. So the B1, as I mentioned, is one of the routes that was the route in Brooklyn that we picked, which ends at the newly accessible 86th Street station. So there's elevator access here, and then this route in particular was chosen because it goes passes through a lot of near schools, playgrounds, other community institutions. It goes to Manhattan Beach, goes towards Brighton Beach, so it's a very popular. We think it'd be popular with people using strollers and just all kinds of people. And then the other routes I mentioned, the Staten Island ones, the S53 and the S93, which also go to serve the 86th Street R station. Those were also picked because they serve Staten Island, but in particular they serve the College of Staten Island and also the Staten Island Zoo. So so it provides a pretty wide swath of destinations here. And this also, as I mentioned, provides access to the newly accessible 86th Street station. So we thought it was very appropriate as well. I mean, just given that the station was newly accessible, and also kind of provides another unique example of how we're trying to redefine the accessibility experience here at the MTA, and trying to reform things as needed to make things work for everyone. So this is all I have for now. So now I'll actually pass it back to you all. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to chime in.
Thank you so much, guys. That was very thorough, and that was great. Does anybody have any questions? I throw it open to the committee for any questions.
I have two questions.
Yes, Doris?
My first question is on the Omni card. When I first heard a presentation at Borough Hall about the introduction of Omni cards, they said that for people who did not have a smartphone or want to use one, they would be able to purchase a card that they could use. And I do not hear that being discussed. Is that available?
Yes, my apologies. Yeah, there is actually a physical Omni card that is sold at a growing number of retailers citywide. That information should be available on omni.info as well. But yeah, so there is an actual card that has all the same features and all the same benefits that you would get from your smart device. And that's also available on reduced fares. Sorry if I cut you off. Like, it's also available on
information to have when you go to the Bay Ridge Center about this presentation.
Yeah, we can add a bullet just to make that clear as well about the actual Omni card. Thanks for flagging.
And then I have a second question about wheelchair access. What is the timetable for the 95th Street station?
I can answer that. We currently have the RFP out for the 95th Street station. We plan to award that by the end of the year, so pretty quickly. It's going to be design build, so the construction, the siting, construction, all of that should go relatively quickly. As soon as we have the contract awarded, we're going to come back to the community board just to let you know what's going on and involve you in the process. So you'll be hearing from us in the next couple of months about that.
I would just like to comment that location, 95th Street and 4th Avenue, is a location of a Carnegie Library. It's probably one of the oldest buildings in Bay Ridge. It's one of the oldest buildings on that corner, and that it would be very disturbing to see any impact that a wheelchair and station would have on the view of that building. It is a historic building.
We'll definitely take that feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. Anyone else in the committee? Questions, comments?
Yes, don't forget me.
Yep, Larry, yep.
I noticed that the B1 uses the articulated buses, the extra long buses there in 2 sections. Is that was that why the route was chosen, or they have the long articulated buses on the B1? I noticed the other routes don't seem to have that.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, also it wasn't the reason it was chosen, but it was certainly one of the factors we considered. Like, it's more about the consistency in fleet and the ability to guarantee that we would have that bus serving that specific route. But as far as the placement of the stroller parking area, like it's still in the middle section of it.
You're gonna have less
of those buses.
You're gonna have less complaints because on the S53 and the S93 they have regular standard size bus, and the 53 I know can get extremely crowded, and it's going to cause a lot of angst. Let's put it that way. If you saw that, just also, no, by the way, also you mentioned the Q50 that goes to the Bronx. That's a by 2-borough route also. So we're sort of like we're not the only ones carrying both boroughs. We have the Staten Island buses and the Brooklyn buses too. Are the buses the new buses are going to be made in Plattsburgh, or do you know? You know which kind of new buses that are coming? You say 2,000 new buses. That's.
I don't know for sure, but I believe that many of our newer buses are made in Plattsburgh. I'm not sure exactly like what the distribution is.
That's it.
Thanks, Larry. Anyone else have any comments or concerns or questions? This is a very thorough presentation, I have to say. And it's nice for Bay Ridge to finally be a part of a pilot program. I will say that.
Another question?
Sure, Larry.
Omni, how much is that? Is that going to be, when is that going to be mandatory? I know, kiss our Metro cards goodbye. When is that going to be enforced? When will that be, Omni?
request.
All Omni, when is that going to be?
So, Nick, correct me if there's been a change or anything, but my understanding is that it's supposed to happen towards the end of 2023. But that's the latest timeline that I have. But we'll definitely update if anything changes.
All right. I don't see any hands up.
No.
So, no, everyone is satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Then with that, we are
We
done.
appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Steve, he's here. There we go. We can see
I'm
you.
still here.
Well, you're so quiet.
I had to say
No,
something.
I know. This is great. So with that, then I put out, does anyone have a motion to adjourn? Don't see
So
him.
moved.
Motion
There we go. Yes. Seconded. All right.
Second.
Thank you.